with State of the Arts NYC, where we cover art. We just had with us Emily Height, who is with the National Museum of Women in the Arts in Washington, D.C. Emily is the digital editorial assistant that's there developing this initiative called hashtag 5 Women Artists. And the purpose of that is to make sure that we pay attention during Women's History Month to the female artists that are around the world making a difference in our lives, and we need to know who they are more. So with that said, we're going to bring on our next guest. We're going to bring on a woman that I really admire, Catherine Martin. She is the managing director for the Shelton Japanese Art Gallery that's in Midtown. And I was very fortunate enough the day before yesterday during the press walk for Asia Art Week 2018 to go to her gallery with a group of journalists, and we were able to see her exhibition, Mira Mira. So, Catherine, are you there with us?
I'm here.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us. How are you today?
I'm great, and I'm excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. And so I just wanted to thank you for coming and talking. We're trying to get Christina Prescott Walker on the line, who is the new, I guess you would say new chairman.
Yes.
Of the Asia Art Week. We're going to call Marilyn to get Christina's number, but I just wanted to talk about your gallery because it's a small gallery, but it's very intimate. And I love the images that you have in most of the works. It really tells a story. So why don't you start off with us by telling us about Mira Mira?
Okay, so Mira Mira is our exhibition for Asia Week New York 2018. We're part of an organization of galleries and auction houses, and the museums participate, and we have this, wonderful 10-day period where everybody brings out their best. There's galleries from all over the world. It's top-notch art on view, and so our contribution to this is an exhibition called Mira Mira, and we're featuring images that sort of self-explanatory, utilize the mirror. So either as every single woodblock print or painting has a mirror in the composition or is framed by a mirror.
Ah.
So you're looking at the reflection of a person in a mirror, or the mirror is actually a prop or a compositional device to tell a story, or it's a window into a view. And I also like to think it's an excuse to sort of pull back the curtain and, see beautiful people, men and women, putting on makeup or getting dressed. It's the sort of the classic theme, a la toilette.
Okay. Now, the mirrors, though, that were used at that time period were not glass, correct? They were other materials.
Correct. In ancient times, it actually originates in China, but in Japan also they had small mirrors. The oldest ones were go back to they found them in tombs from 300 to 250, 300 BC to 250 AD, and they would find these small 4-inch mirrors, and they're made out of bronze. And very often there's sort of like a decorative element on one side, and then on the other side that's smooth is highly polished and gilt tin to get the reflective surface. And the old mirrors are just small discs. In I think it's the 15th or 16th century, they start introducing mirrors with handles. They look sort of like a paddle for ping pong.
Oh, wow.
And you go into the Edo period from roughly 1600 to the mid 19th century. They can get larger. And sometimes they were made in pairs, where there would be a larger one sitting on a rack or a stand, and then a smaller one used sort of for women to check out the backs of their hairstyles and things like that.
Wow. We're going to bring in now Christina Prescott Walker, who is the new chairwoman of Asia Week NYC. Christina, are you there?
Hi. Yes, I'm here. Hi.
Great. So this is fabulous because I was explaining to our audience, again, we have an all-female show this week, which I think is great. It was, not done deliberately, but it just happened that way, which also says a lot about women in the arts, that they're really behind a lot of the good that does go on into the arts. So Catherine was telling us about Mira Mira, which I saw, and I thought that was a beautiful exhibition. I've even posted images on our Facebook and Twitter page for our viewers to see. But also tell us, Christina, how does it feel to be the new chairperson for Asia Week NYC?
Well, it's an honor to have been asked. I've been involved, actually, as Catherine, with the planning committee for Asia Week New York pretty much almost since it began. We've been doing this for 9 years. This is the 9th anniversary. Mm-hmm. And we rotate the chairman every 2 years. Mm-hmm. So they voted me in this time, and I'm honored to be sort of the spokesperson, I guess, for Asia Week New York. It's an amazing collaboration, mm-hmm. Or a coming together of the 45 dealers, 5 auction houses, 19 museums are involved, and this is all about presenting the very best in Asian art within this sort of week and a bit. It's a little bit more than a week in New York in March each year, really, which attracts the very best of collectors and museum curators and anyone who's interested in Asian art to New York at this period.
That's just amazing. I was explaining to one of our guests who will be coming on later how I was involved in the press walk for 2 days, and it was, it was like a lot to see and a lot to learn. What are some of the key points that you want, average New Yorkers to understand as they go through these various galleries and talk to dealers and museums? What do you want them to understand? What do you want them to feel?
So that's addressed to me. Okay. So I think, first of all, is to say to everybody that the dealer exhibitions and the auction house exhibitions are all free of charge. Mm-hmm. There's no obligation to buy anything, mm-hmm. Obviously, although mm-hmm. people would like you to. But you can come in and look at things, and by looking you can learn.
Yes.
And you will see a range of Asian art from China, from Japan, from Korea, from Southeast Asia, from India, and from at different dates. You're probably talking about works which span from perhaps 2000 BC right the way through to absolutely contemporary pieces. Some of the galleries are showing things which are by artists, literally painted this year. Mm-hmm. So you've got this amazing range of Asian art. Anyone who, I guess, has a preconceived idea of Asian art of being all about Chinese vases or being all about sort of Buddhist pictures or something like that, but it's paintings. It's not the case. This is all sorts of different kinds of things are available for people to come and see. And it's a great learning opportunity because you can get sort of up close with some of these things.
Yes, I agree.
And there's an opportunity at different price points. So things start at a few $100s and go up into the multiples of millions. There's a little bit of everything, and the quality is just fantastic.
Yes. Now, Catherine, jumping in about the qualities of the works that you're presenting, most of them, are they on paper? Are they on some sort of parchment? Can you tell us a little bit about those images?
Yeah, I think, everything is on Japanese paper. The woodblock prints are, and Japanese paper is actually, I think considered the finest paper that is made in general. It's completely acid-free, and they're woodblock printed, which is it's actually primarily what we offer here in the Japanese. There is wood-cut prints from around the world, yes. But the Japanese are the ones that do the full-color woodblock printing, and they do it the best. And they did it the best. And so in the exhibition, we have things from the 18th century, 19th century, and the 20th century, and actually going all the way, we do have one print from the 21st century. it's quite a range, but sort of the heyday for Japanese woodblock prints would be the 18th and 19th century.
All right. See, and that's what Christina was talking about, how there is such a range of different offerings that people can look at. I learned so much. Like, I just found out yesterday how there were these production centers, for lack of a better term, throughout China and Korea, so that they could create kilns. So therefore they could fire, ceramics. And I was just amazed that there were these sections throughout and that these production centers were very profitable in China and Korea, and people would fight over it, change boundaries, just so that they could incorporate these centers where they were making ceramics. Was there anything similar to some of the print work that was done, Catherine?
Well, in a way, yeah. I mean, in Edo period Japan, Edo was the capital, which was a booming metropolis rivaling that of Paris or London. And there was a very large print production industry there. You do see some woodblock printing in Osaka and Kyoto, but really the vast majority of the prints that were made in Edo, which is now Tokyo.
So they were doing the same thing as well. And the other thing that I want our listeners to understand was that for, maybe a couple of thousands of years, you had people sharing not just food, but also traditions and techniques. So I'm learning how there is a difference when you're looking at Buddhas that were influenced from India versus Buddhas that were influenced from Japan. One focused on meditation. The other one was focusing on mysticism. And it was these, understandings and sharings that blossomed religions and other techniques, whether you use celadon, whether you use indigo, that it helped spread the arts all across that region of Southwest, Far East, South India, in that area for quite a bit of time. Can you share a little bit with us, Catherine, how the prints were shared in the region that I'm talking about?
Well, I'm going to answer that, but I actually want to say something. It's so interesting that you picked up on all of this on the press walk.
Yeah, I did.
And and actually all of your listeners out there, they can do their own little press walk. I mean, that's what we're all here for. You can get an education. You go around to all of these different galleries and dealers and auction houses, and the art is there, and the people are there to help share this kind of history and understanding. With the Japanese prints, during the Edo period, there was some travel. There was a tradition of the warlords needed to maintain a residence in the capital, and they needed to bring their retainers. They were required to maintain a certain size household. So Edo was known as a city of bachelors, and they would come and they would enjoy the kabuki theater, and then they would go to the pleasure quarters and the tea houses, and they would buy Japanese prints. They would buy prints of their experience, of the beautiful women, of the kabuki theater, and then they could bring them home as well.
They were kind of like the Instagrams and selfies of their day.
Yes. Oh, my God. We haven't changed.
Instant souvenirs.
Wow.
Yeah, they would bring them home and show, and that's sort of interesting because they would call these full-color prints, they would call them nishikie, which means brocade picture. Because they were they were so lavish, all these colors and beautiful alignment. And we actually have two images. We have a painting and a print in the show that shows a woman holding a small hand mirror, checking her makeup, and a couple of people have noted that it looks very much like she's checking her messages on her phone.
Wow. We haven't changed as people. We just changed, the modes of which to have these experiences, but we haven't changed as people. Now, isn't that kind of comforting to know?
Yeah. To
some degree, so therefore we can learn to connect with each other?
Yeah, or not connect and bury our noses in our mirrors and our phones.
And I think that's something people don't always appreciate. I think people think that sometimes that this kind of art is unapproachable, or how do you access it, or it's all too expensive, or it's not something that I would be interested in. But I think once you start to hear some of the stories behind pieces,